So let's start right over. Um, we took a little bit of break this weekend, so we're recording it on Monday, actually after work. So if you look at us, we're a little bit tired, but it's okay. We're here for you guys. So the Pareto Principle states that for many accounts, roughly, more or less 80% of the consequence comes from 20% of the causes, meaning that 80% of the outcomes will come from 20% of the input. This is something that has been studied, has been proven. It works in corporate America, it works in businesses. And the way how this came out is because an economist in the early 1900s, I don't know his name, but I'm pretty sure his last name was Pareto, discovered that actually 80% of the land of Italy was owned by roughly 20% of the people, of the population in Italy. So 20% of the population in Italy controlled pretty much 80% of the output. He went to study different similar outcomes in different type of business and companies, and that's something that has been proven. And I'm pretty sure you guys know a little bit about the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time you're listening, 20% of the time you're talking, especially if you're dating out there. This is very useful for guys. Jared, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, people often talk about inequality like it's specific to capitalism or a certain culture or society, or that it can actually be fixed. But at the end of the day, inequality is innate in nature. So this 80-20 rule, it's not like everything is 80-20, but it's a rough rule. Some things are 99-1. Like you look at everything from the distribution of water. Most large bodies of water has 99% of the water, and smaller bodies of water have less. Another example is the Matthew Principle. You might know this from the Bible, but I think what it says in Matthew, I'm forgetting the verse, but it goes that and this was one of Jesus's sermons, but it really has applicability even to those who aren't religious, because it's just an innate fact of nature. And that is, those who have, all will be given, and those who have not, all will be taken. And it's the idea of exponential growth and the idea of momentum. So when you start developing a career or developing your balance sheet, like how much money you have, at the end of the day, that first dollar is the hardest dollar. Then once you get, the richer you become, the easier it is to make money. You can live off of interest. You can live off that momentum, in a sense. And as long as you're not foolish, the Matthew Principle says that. Can you scroll in there a little bit, Jorge?
Yeah.
So, so 80% of sales for a given company, but it's not just companies. It's really a principle. So you can't remove the idea of inequality from nature. It's not like capitalism is responsible for inequality. Inequality is responsible for capitalism. And even if you look at societies under communism, or the richest person ever, I believe it's Mansa Musa, and this was a king, and he was the richest guy ever, richer than Bill Gates, richer than Elon Musk. And the reason why he acquired all of his spoils was because he was a monarch. So just because we have a certain society doesn't necessarily mean that inequality can be solved. It's kind of an innate form of existence. And when people were excited about the Soviet Revolution, and they thought that everyone can be equal, what they failed to understand is that inequality is literally the basis of existence. So when you have inequality, and then you try to make everything equal from a governmental perspective, what happens? Inequality still happens. It just becomes unfair. It becomes nepotism. It becomes who you know. And those who have more power have the resources. But the real principle about inequality And what we want to talk about today is how inequality can be used to your advantage and how you can understand that just because inequality exists doesn't mean that if you're poor, you'll always be poor. What it really means is that you have to find a way to do something that no one else can do like you can. You have to find your comparative advantage. You have to bring the value that you can bring to the table that no one else can bring. And from there, and when you're an expert in something and you're known for one thing, that is how you can become successful. It's not about being well rounded necessarily, it's about dedicating yourself to one thing and being great at it. And from there, you can thrive off of that momentum from your progress. I know I've been ranting a little bit. So, Jorge, what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I agree. And actually, this is something. This is a good point to discuss. I think so. As we see in the actually screen, men do not shop equally, work equally, or even give equally, right? So we're different beings that are different, make us equal, right? Let me say it again: our difference make us equal. Uh, at the same, like as Jared was explaining, uh, the production, the 80-20 rule, and so on, it changed with time too. You don't want to earn as much money as you're earning now, compared to your 40s, right? If in your 20s you can earn less, way less than you're gonna earn when you're in your 40s and we're in your 50s, where you are at the peak of your career. Then you're gonna own more stuff, have more assets, be more wealthy, right? So you're gonna be part of that diagram, part of the chart of the Pareto Principle, right? And I think the problem with inequality or the concept of inequality is that they're so enforced of the idea of make us equal. And the idea of make us equal really scares me, because the whole point of having a society actually is for us to be unequal, right? For have different opinions. Imagine if everyone in your life thinks the same way you do. We don't want to go anywhere, guys. Even if you had two kids, two twins, born at the same time, the same day, the same hour, whatever, you're raising the same equally. You're giving food and so on. As those, it could be that one becomes a CEO, one becomes an artist, and the other one becomes a soccer player or decided to, I don't know, do nothing. So having the same type of education, the same type of culture, the same type of ideas, even doesn't guarantee similar success. So in our sense, there is something in our body, something in our brains that make us different, that make us want to pick something and want to be specialized on it. The only people that's not successful in their life is the ones that don't decided to work for it. They don't decide to specialize or work in something that is really passionate or something that they discovered really good at it, right? So I think that inequality is actually good for humanity. It's actually good for society because it inspires me to work so harder in some other places. And let me tell you something, guys. I don't want to say names or anything, but in my life, I know people that have been very successful in corporate American monetary life, but they are not being very successful in the family life, or they don't have somebody that they can love truly. And they will never tell you if they're happy or not. They will say stuff, well, I'm satisfied. I'm being successful, right? I'm not judging or anything. Just putting an example there. This has happened to me twice in my life, right? So for me, also inequality is not also about money, but it's also about how much care of love you give, right? And that could be also it could be that you get most of the joy, 80% of the joy, out of 20% of the friends that you have. That is a better example, right? It could be that I don't know, 40 people, but out of that 40 people, actually just eight of them give you all the joy you want in life, right? You build experiences and so on. So what this really tells us is to really emphasize and work hard in the stuff that we know how to do better, and focus in actually what will really have impact, which is the, the small niche, right? If you work or you love somebody, make sure you love it to the fullest so you can actually get all the joy and all the benefits on that. I believe economics is a social science and it can be applicable in any type of situation of your life, religion, of course, labor, but as well relationships, right? People get incentive. People doesn't get incentivized in the ways how you talk, how you react, the energy also that you give, and what you project. Right. I think that involves a little bit of everything, and probably that touch a little bit in psychology and sociology, but not to get far away from the common topic here. We just want to emphasize how inequality could be very beneficial. For me, it has inspired me a lot. It has definitely inspired me because I see other people being smarter than me, better than me in other things, and I want to be there. I want to become more like them. And I ask them and I research, but I also work for it, right? And I had done many mistakes as well that I learned from, and I corrected it, and I keep improving, right? And I think having this type of inequality, if I think that everyone is equal, everyone is a winner, that's not the right mindset to have. That's a mindset that will give you comfortable. It will get you extremely comfortable that you won't try anything, and anything new will scare you, and you're just gonna stay in your comfort zone. So I will encourage you. I encourage everybody to always get out of your comfort zone, talk, meet people that doesn't have a common background. It's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be hard, but at the end, it's gonna be most beneficial. I think so. Uh, you know, and if there's something that you like an industry that you want to get into and so on, you don't have any experience on it, try to get there somehow and work your way there. Because if you show you want to do it, I think everything could happen. In the Bible also says is that since we talk about Matthew, and this is not a Bible podcast, but let's just put it out there. Those should ask shall receive. So just ask, work for it, and go for it. Jared, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that inequality also hurts. Like to have inequality means that some people are going to be better at things than you are. Some people are more attractive than you are, smarter than
Yeah.
you are, better at certain skills. But it's a point of to be honest with yourself at
But
what
the thing
you are
about
and what you don't have.
the thing about inequality, and let's make this more a conversation. I think our people, our listeners and fans likes to listen more like when we're having this type of discussion. It's transitional, right? It's a transitory. Like you say, some guys are better looking than you are, but 10 years from now, maybe who knows, man. Some of them become fat. Some of them they don't look as good. They don't have the best aging genes. They look like they're 50s already. Or some of them they look like they're younger or even better, right? So I think it works in different ways. It works in what you focus, and also, as you said, it's tough, But to be honest, we don't come to this world to be happy. Yeah. And then, suffering is a part of the learning. I think a lot of people struggles with that, and I want your opinion on this because I don't want to say, oh, embrace suffering, go for the pain points, but take it. You take the happy moments and you take the tough moments, but what doesn't change is your mindset, your values.
Mm.
At least that's my upbringing. That's a little bit more my personality. I had tough times, good times, but I always face it in the same way. And I seek the solution and enjoy the moment where it's time to enjoy, and I suffer the moment where it's time to suffer. And I think when you watch soccer and you put a lot of hope into those guys, you kind of get your heart out. And let's not talk about the Packers. You know.
Or the Bears.
Oh, man,
Yeah, no,
those are worse.
I think though that there's something freeing in going through a challenging time in your life, and like I like the idea of living through the colors and the shadows and the light that happens throughout life. Sometimes you go through dark times, sometimes you go through times that are easier, but the dark times teaches you more. And there's a negativity bias that humans have, and that negativity bias is that you remember negative things more than positive things. Just like every good story has a protagonist and an antagonist, the same thing happens in, like, for us, when we go through negative experiences, we're more likely to remember them. We're more likely to have a story that comes out of it. So when I go through like something that's embarrassing or that's kind of negative, uh, you can always remember a story that's negative But like if you just had a good weekend and nothing really happened, but it was just a good time, like you don't get stories from that. You don't get stories when you're comfortable sleeping in a really like comfortable bed and your day goes kind of okay, but like you don't really remember those experiences like you do. You're trapped in, you're canoeing and you're in a thunderstorm, for example. That happened to me once, where lightning everywhere. I'm in a metal boat. I'm like, I'm probably gonna die, but I have a story from that. But if it was sunny that day, I wouldn't have even remembered that day. It would just be lost in the deep corners of my mind. But there's something that happens when you go through something negative. There's always a lesson there. There's always something that you can take from it. And I think when we connect this back to the Pareto principle, I think it requires a little bit of honesty for you to apply that to your own life. Maybe there's stuff that you're not good at, and you have kind of a decision there. One, do you want to get better at it? Or do you want to invest your time into something else that you feel like you have a natural propensity towards or that you're gifted at? I know I've read, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and he
Yo,
talks
I
about,
love that book. I love
yeah,
that book.
like the
Right.
10,000 hours.
Right.
But at the same time, like if you're, and there's something noble in people who overcome challenges. But if you're, let's say you don't have, a foot, are you going to become the world's best marathon runner if you only have
Well,
one?
no.
No, but you can at least do your best, and people will be like, they'll see like, oh yeah, that guy, like, he still runs faster than a lot of people, maybe with a prosthetic, or maybe one day there are prosthetics and he can run better than anyone else. But there is kind of that decision that you should make if you feel like you are, not poor in financial terms, but poor in knowledge and skills, in value. And I think that's the point of the Pareto principle that's the most valuable. It's that value, if you bring value to the table, if you're charismatic or you're really smart, if you apply it in the right sphere, you can start building that momentum. But if you start snowballing and you're constantly, if you walk through the world and you're always like, oh, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, girls don't like me. If you have that mentality, you are letting the Matthew principle control you and control your destiny.
Yeah.
Because you're basically admitting that you're not enough, instead of, okay, maybe I'm not that great at this, but I'm going to be great.
I agree.
It's a mental framework that you have to really understand. Not just like, am I good or bad at this, but what do I need to do to be good? Is this a value? Is this a valuable part of my life? And how do I ride the waves of momentum to get to where I want to go?
That's a question to
Yeah,
the soul, and I think
it is.
there is a difference between be a poor, because I think poor is being a poor in spirit, a poor mindset, and a difference with that, I'm comparing to being poor, to be broke. Excuse me. Broke is when you have any money in the account and so on. But I think poor is when you are run out of ideas and you run out of the spirit and you don't want to keep going. I think that's when you become poor. I see a lot of broke people get out of the hole, but never been poor. And I want to say one thing about the Pareto principle that Jared touched point on it. You don't want to do you don't want to be in the top of the hierarchy if you keep doing the same things that everyone does, right? So you have to be creative, and you and your personal life has to try new things. Because every year you do the same thing, your life is gonna be stuck. You're gonna be in the comfort zone. You're gonna be in the zone that just get age and die, right? But if you try new things, you're learning, you're constantly improving your skills. We're not talking about working skills, right? We're talking about skills that you're learning more about history, or you're learning more about the world, or you're traveling more, or you're meeting people out of your comfort zone, or you get to know, I don't know, something that you haven't done before that it could be beneficial to you, or maybe it could not, right? The point is that you're constantly growing and learning, and that will also shift the inequality in you. You're going to have a much useful life. We're applying this Pareto principle in everything in life, not only monetary. But you had good ideas and you set to solve problems that nobody has solved before, probably you're gonna end up very successful. You know? And if you're not, you're gonna learn a lot and you're gonna teach it to somebody that will be. That's how the story of the life goes. That's how professors are came to be. Right now, those who can't teach, those who can do, right? So I think that's something that
Just
you
lost
should take
all of our
away,
teachers.
right?
Uh, all of our subs that are teachers, they have signed off after that, Jorge.
No, I'm just saying, it's something that it could be, as I say, live your life as an pure joy, and as a way to also keep learning, as a way to an adventure. I see life as an adventurous point in history. And myself, I believe in the afterlife and so on. But I think right now I like to try and learn new things all the time, even if it's new food, even if it's new people, seek about new ideas, what people in other countries are doing. And I think that will give you more joy and more perspective. It will make you more interesting too, and more appealing. As Jared mentioned, sometimes you're charismatic and you don't have the right skills, but you have the personality that fits the profile. People is willing to mentor you. And if you don't find that in one area or environment or workplace, another one will appreciate it. But it's up to you. You determine your own value. So, monetary speaking, society speaking, even in your own family. So that's something that I want to leave you guys to think of. And I think today the podcast is going to be a little bit short, but we just pretty much give all the information out. We want to provide as much value as we can in the shortest amount of period. And Jared, you have something to add before we conclude?
All I have to say is believe in yourself, be the person that you want to be in the world. I think often it's easy for you to take life for granted. I know for myself, to become uh, to become so used to comforts and so used to the day in and day out that we forget to really think about what are we doing in this life. I think once you answer the question of what you want to be in this world, that's your path to purpose and meaning and a life well lived. And in a digital world like ours today, so many people are looking for the validation and uh, a little click of a like button that just stimulates your dopaminergic system in your brain because someone just liked your photo. At the end of the day, that's not going to bring you happiness. The only thing that will is for you to believe that what you're doing is bigger than yourself, that you are a part of something larger. And the more isolated and the more focused you are on yourself and what you're not good at, the more you're going to be drugged down into the terrible darkness of life. But once you realize what you are capable of becoming, you might not have it all straightened away. You might be terrible at the things that you want to be good at. But it takes that admission, and it takes hard work, and it takes a vision for you to get where you want to go. So when you're thinking about the Pareto Principle, I want to leave you with a few questions. What am I good at? What can I bring to the table? What is my comparative advantage? And how do I want to carry out my life? And what am I not good at? Because what you're not good at will help shape what you are good at. I have a theory that every weakness is a strength and a strength a weakness. And what I mean by that is often your strengths are your weaknesses. If you're really extroverted, maybe you're not as good of a listener, but you're better at talking. Maybe if you're very good at math, you're not as good at abstract thinking. But that's okay, you're good at math. But there's a different benefit that comes from the things that you're good at, and likewise, what you're bad at. They're connected. There's a symbiosis between your weaknesses and your strengths. So let me envision this for you. Turn down the volume of your weaknesses and turn up the volume of your strengths, and be the person that you've always wanted to be. This is
On that,
Jared and Jorge.
economify,
More
everyone.
codified.